Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
Missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and that the mother has went through a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
McSherman is a demon.
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hey, how's everybody? Thank you so much for being here. This is another ATS News live stream. We're doing Friday night true crime recap. So there was a lot going on this week, so I just want to get into some of the stuff that we were going to be talking about like right away. I've invited my friend Jay, who'll be coming on, I believe, shortly. It's good to see everybody in chat. Hi, Pointer and Lover, Adrian, Melanie, Johnny's here. I think I saw Debbie Fox. Anyways, it's good to see all you guys here. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you're able to have that hype option, it's totally free. And it's a new way to kind of support your channels out there. There's Debbie. Good to see everybody. So yeah, that's all I really ask of you guys. So just like and subscribe. Be here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. And tomorrow night is more of like a hangout session of true crime. So we'll be watching like the defamation trial of Johnny and Amber Heard, and then mixing in some hidden true crime Lauren Matthias updates. Hey, Seth, so good to see you. So happy that you're here too. Happy to see everybody. And Jay's here also. So let me pull him on. And then I think we'll start off. Hey, Jay, what's up?
Hi, Amber. Thanks for having me up.
Of course. Have you been following the Anna Kepner case, the cruise ship murder?
Yes, I've been hearing it discussed in like various different places. Obviously, I enjoyed Alex Erickson's live about it, which I got most of my info from. So I thank you to her. And then it was further discussed on it's not a true crime show that I'm listening to. It's like a morning radio show, but those guys were discussing it as well, going through the news. So I've had 2 deep discussions about it in the last 2 days. So I've got a lot of thoughts on it.
Cool. It's wild. And then, so as everyone who kind of came over here from Alex Erickson's live stream prior, there has been an update this evening, and pretty much they've revealed the cause of death. So she's 16 years old, for those who don't know, on the cruise with her family. Some of the family is stepbrothers. Some of the family is half brothers, from my understanding. It was kind of hard to kind of lay out like who's who on this trip. But I actually went on this exact cruise that she was on years and years ago. So like I was 22 at the time. So that's how long it's been. I'm 37 now. So they went to Cozumel, Mexico, Grand Cayman, and I believe Jamaica, which is the exact route that I took. It's a beautiful cruise. You're in the Caribbean waters. It's very still, very peaceful, just, the turquoise waters. The Carnival Cruise Line has always had strange things that kind of happen related to them, other murders and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting in this case because there's rumors that, and I think it might have even been mentioned in the filing between like the parents who are going through a custody situation, like one of the parents, when I say that, it's because there's step people involved too. So there's like a custody battle intertwined with all this, which is how some of the information was kind of stumbled on, because that's how we found out that the stepbrother was the suspect. So there still has not been an arrest, but the custody paperwork kind of revealed like, he's a suspect now and yada, yada. We'll get into that further. But it's just it's been crazy. Found underneath her bed. There was stuff about the uncle on Facebook saying that she was nude and wrapped up in the sheet. They've determined also as of today that there was no SA. But then we also find out through her ex-boyfriend and the ex-boyfriend's father that this stepbrother had like a weird obsession with her. Did you hear that, Jay?
I had not heard that, so this is new, and obviously I missed Alex Erickson's last live because I was asleep. I just been at the
It's
gym.
okay, as long as you're awake for here. No.
Yeah, set an alarm for here. I didn't want to let the boss down, so yeah, I'll have to catch up on Alex's afterwards.
No
I hadn't
worries.
heard that.
We won't fault you for it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that it'd been said that he had an obsession with you, because I had been wondering like motive this morning and the other night, and Alex's like, and my initial thought was like, it's stepsister, she's older, and he's killed her. Like maybe it was SA related. You know what I mean? It's as horrible as that is to think. We sadly see it in a lot of cases, but I'm glad it isn't. That wasn't done to her.
Yeah.
But still, it's figuring out why. Like what motivated this? How did it start? You know what I mean? Like so many questions.
Yeah, and I said I sort of predicted that this was going to be. I was like, I bet you she was strangled. So it was asphyxiation, from a bar hold.
Wow.
So a lot of people think that that's how Shanann was asphyxiated as well in the Watts case. So I think it's interesting that one of the determining factors for this, that they knew that that's what it was the bruising on the side of her neck, I guess, which I think is interesting too, like in relation to the Watts case, separate from this. But that was something that they like determined. So like around their neck like this or something. And then other things were coming out saying like, oh, well, it was international waters, so the children underage were drinking. And that's not the protocol from any cruise. So I've been on Carnival and Royal Caribbean, and you can look it up as well. Like they don't do that. Like just because it's international waters, like Carnival, the company, like they're still going to abide by 21 being the drinking age. So
yeah, you're actually right on saying that, Amber, and it's not just land where that type of thing applies. When I was underage as a kid, I went to Greece with my family, and I think the drinking age in Greece is 16, and the drinking age in the UK to buy a legal drink is 18. I think most people know that. But yeah, I was at this kind of resort that was ran by a UK-based company, but was in Greece, and there in the resort, instead of having 16 as the drinking age, because I wasn't 16, but would have passed for 16, so wanted to get drunk, they wouldn't serve me with that ID like in the UK in a lot of places, so I had to go out of the resort. So it's not just the sea where that applies, is there is precedent in saying holiday companies, vacation companies, cruise companies do this type of thing. You know what I mean? So like what you're saying, it holds more water with me. You know what I mean? Pardon the pun.
Yeah, I mean, because at first I was like, wait a minute, like, is that true? Because we've heard that before, like, oh, international waters, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought about the own cruises I've been on. I was like, I didn't see any underage people. And like, I don't remember them IDing us. Like, we were obviously in our 20s, my ex and I at the time, but like, I just know that like if there was an underage kid, like these kids are clearly 16, they would have been ID'd and probably turned away. But it says Carnival does not allow alcohol to minors in international waters. The minimum drinking age on Carnival ships is 21, regardless of the location. This policy is in place for all sailing, even those that might be in international waters or at ports where local laws permit a lower drinking age. So it talks about like Carnival's strict enforcement and their policies and all that. So I mentioned all that because I'm like, if it comes out that this teen was drunk with her, like the suspect, the stepbrother, not her, the victim. But if it comes out that he was drinking, because statistically a lot of crimes take place like when one of them's drunk.
Or
usually
on
the
drugs.
perpetrator. Yeah. So if I'm wondering if that's true, like Carnival's in a whole lot of like hot water. Like
Oh
if it
yeah,
comes out that they were serving an underage child.
yeah, civil suits or negligence are going to come out. You know what I mean? If that is the case, but like you said, I'm leaning towards that not being the case because, from my own experience, not being on cruises, because I've always had a funny feeling with them, but in similar settings, like enclosed kind of vacation places, like these companies tend to have these policies, you know what I mean, to cover their asses legally.
I hope so, because that's not going to look good. Obviously for Carnival. Hey, Roxanne and Diva Girl, everyone else who's joined. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
I don't know. I just am wondering if, like, I don't know. I could see a corporation like Carnival, like, trying to keep that out of the media. Like, if it turns out, because they have cameras everywhere. And even though, like, as like a company overall, they would say, like, no, absolutely not. Like, you're 16, you can't drink. Like, it comes down to the bartender too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, yeah, you're right. Because, like, going back to what I keep referencing when I was on that all-inclusive resort in Greece, it's like they did have that policy, but there were a few waitresses and waiters who would serve me because I was tipping them and stuff. So, like,
Yeah, I
that's
wonder
a
if
great example of it.
yeah, I really like, again, I want to reiterate, like, it hasn't come out that Carnival did serve them, but it has come out that people are saying, like, well, they were drinking because it was international waters. So I just looked up Carnival's policy. They say absolutely not. You have to be 21. But then, like, everyone knows, like you've just stated, like, if there's a bartender and you're tipping in cash, etc., like, would somebody do that? And would Carnival Cruise Line try to cover it up? I don't know. Or maybe wait until they absolutely have to put out the footage of them being served alcohol or something. You know what I mean? Like, I just wonder if some of that is mixed in here. I hope not.
And I mean, it's also possible that the kid was stealing booze from his parents. Like, you know, this I keep bringing it back to different stories of my life, but like, I was at a family gathering and I had a JD and Coke left on the side, and my brother, who was below the drinking age at the time, took it thinking it was just ordinary Coke and downed it. You know what I mean? So, like, these things not even, you know, knowingly happen. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so, and if he knows and his parents are talking, and like you say, on cruises, like everyone knows on cruises, I'm pretty aware, it's like it's an all-inclusive type of place, a lot of them, so you've already paid for your drink. So what is it if one drink goes missing when you're not paying for them there
Yeah,
and
the
then?
drink packages they have, etc. Like, yeah, that's going to be interesting to find out. Oh, and another element in this whole thing that I thought was sort of odd was they had, like, the stepbrother, the half brother who was younger, and then her 16, like, all in the same room together. And, like, okay, I get it. They're siblings. And I don't know. I just thought it was strange that they would have all these teens. And, like, I believe the youngest, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, is like 9. But or maybe it was for 14. Regardless, I just thought it was like, okay, so there's no, like, parent at all in there. And, like, shouldn't she have had her own, like, room, or, like, with girls if there was cousins or something like that? Like, I don't think there were cousins, but I just found it odd that the parents were like, okay, like, put all the kids in one room and, like, just let them. Sounds like a free for all. I don't know.
I
Maybe
agree.
maybe my parents were just more strict.
I mean, mine weren't very strict, but they certainly would have been decent. Because, I mean, I am the oldest, and they always kind of made provisions for me as much as possible to have my own kind of room. And obviously, I'm a male, so it is kind of different. But yeah, she was an 18-year-old woman. You know what I mean? And her brother is 16, and then the younger one, her stepbrother, is 16, and then her other brother, I'm not sure if it's her bio brother or if it's his brother, that is 14.
Yes. Yeah, those
So
were the age gaps. That's right. So I remember, like, hearing this and I was like, that's kind of weird.
yeah,
Especially because, okay, so here's the other thing, since you didn't know that there was other things going on. So it has come out. Did you hear about her ex-boyfriend speaking out?
I haven't. Please
Okay.
enlighten me.
Yeah, so her ex-boyfriend in the last 24 hours has spoken out, and I'll pull his interview up too, but basically like the parents were aware, at least some of the parents, because again, we're talking about step parents and all this, that this stepbrother was like obsessed with her and like creeping on her. Like she felt uncomfortable around him. And like there was an incident on a FaceTime call where the ex-boyfriend said the lights were out, she was like asleep, and the stepbrother came in and like climbed on top of her, and then like they screamed and he left the room or whatever, like he yelled at him or whatever. I'll read this and then I'll switch to the ex-boyfriend. But I bring that up because I'm like, if some parents did know about this strange like situation between this obsessed stepbrother, then why are they putting her 18 in the room on the cruise with this obsessed 16-year-old and the youngest brother too? Like it's just, to me, is the whole sleeping arrangement was just strange. Like she should have either had her own room or like maybe had like the mom. I don't know. Like I guess it's hard when like the parents want adult time too, but like I'm sorry, you have children. Like you're on vacation. Like you can't just be like, you guys do your own thing and we're going to do our own thing. Like to me, this whole thing to me was kind of strange when it comes out that like they didn't want to listen to the ex-boyfriend, I guess, too, when he tried to say like there's something weird going on with this stepbrother. Thank you, Seth.
I think it's total like denialism on the part of the parents. Like they don't want it to be the truth because it's so messed up and weird. But like even still, you're so right. If they have this suspicion that he's been all weird with his stepsister and being all like touchy-feely with her and stuff and making her feel uncomfortable, why put him in the same room? You know what I mean? Put the two boys in the room together, you know what I mean? Give her her own room, you know what I mean? She's an 18-year-old woman, you know what I mean? Let her be a woman, you know what I mean? And feel safe. It's just
apparently
so disturbing.
This had happened like, I don't know when the cruise was booked, but she had broken up with her boyfriend who's going to speak in this interview like 6 months ago. And like that incident obviously happened when they were together. So like the parents have known for a while, like prior to this. So like it would have given them time to be like, maybe we should switch the sleeping arrangements around, or like, I mean, there's ways that parents can have alone time while also sharing the cabin or whatever with her. Like, to me, it's just, I don't know. Like it seems like they were just left to do whatever. I hope that's not going to be the case, but it seems like even in the custody battle between some of the parents, like they're feeling like the stepmother put the 16-year-old in like a position that like he shouldn't have been in as well, even though he's the suspect. Like the father's like pissed about it.
Wow, it's just such a messed up situation, and I just it's just hard for me to even comprehend. I mean, what we were discussing on the morning show I was listening to and interacting with this morning. I mean, the guy's usually like never serious about anything, but this he got pretty serious about. I think because he has kids as well, so he was pretty, and a blended family, so I think it got pretty personal and close to home for him. But yeah, he was talking about like how like like stepsister and in porn and stuff like that, about how those subjects and themes can be really like problematic and messed up, you know what I mean, and can lead to this type of deviant behavior.
Yeah. And hello, Alex Erickson and Marshall Dove and everyone else who joined. And okay, say that it didn't come out that he was obsessed with her. Me as a mother, I would be thinking about my 18-year-old. I mean, the stepbrother is not her blood relative. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I would be like, even if nothing was under suspicion or like a red flag with the kid, I would be thinking about her and like obviously like his hormones and like, there might be something in me to think maybe I should have her like not with the boys, because she's going to be changing and she's going to be in her bathing suit and changing, and like she's 18, he's 16, like what it's like when you're 16. Like, I don't know, there might have been something in me that also thought, even if there was no red flags, to be like, okay, yeah, like I think she needs her own room, like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, from my own point of view, my mind probably wouldn't have even gone as far as that. I think it would have just been like, I'd have just been like, give her her own room so that she's not kept up by the boys. You know what I mean? Like, that would be my kind of thinking about over it. And also so she could feel like a woman as well, like not like a little kid, like all the kids have to,
Right.
stay together. But yeah, if there was a suspicion of him being, all weird with her, you know what I mean? Even if it was my son, especially if it was my son, I'd be like, yeah, we can't be doing that. You know what I mean? We need to keep everyone safe here and avoid any, possibilities where anyone can be victimized.
And it says, and the thing too is she was going to join the military. Like you said, there's not only is there's this age gap and like different genders in the same room, but she was on a totally different page, not a child. You know what I mean? She's about to join the military is what she wanted to do.
Exactly. And to have that in your mind at such a young age, it shows real determination. You know what I mean? That you're only just getting into adult life, and your first decision is like to make a really big step in a really big direction by intending to join the military. So it's such a shame that she was robbed of that opportunity, because I think hearing what I have heard about her and how her family have spoken about her and friends, the army really has lost a really good possible soldier.
Yeah. So she's found dead on the cruise ship in the Caribbean earlier this month, died of asphyxiation. That is new as of this evening. 18 underneath the bed, Carnival Cruise on November 8th. Now investigators have preliminary ruled that the teen died as of a result of his asphyxiation from a bar hold or an arm held across the neck. Kepner's body showed no signs of SA, nor were drugs or alcohol found in her system. So they already know some prelim results from the toxicology, and it says though full autopsy and toxicology reports have not been yet made available. So their prelim stuff is what's being released today. So further down the line, maybe there'll be more. Again, she was 18, so it's not like she's under the minor, like where they can't release some of the information. So it says, when contacted earlier on Friday, Miami-Dade Medical Examiner Department declined to comment on Kepner's cause of death, citing pending investigation. And that was the whole thing too, is like, I remember when I first started following this, the parents were like, we don't even know how she died. So for a while, like, can you imagine, not even like, they found bruises on the side of her neck, but like they weren't going to release that they thought it was asphyxiation yet. So I'm sure that was like unbearable for the parents. But it says high school cheerleader from Florida was on a cruise with her father, stepmother, and two siblings. The night before she was found dead, Kepner retired to the bed early, telling her family that she was not feeling well. She is now being remembered as a thoughtful, nurturing person who was always thinking of others. She had a big, beautiful heart, often sending random I love you messages and little gestures that made everybody's day. Okay, so this is what's weird. It says no suspect or person of interest has been named publicly in this case. So I say it's weird because the reason why we all found that out was because it says, however, in court filings unrelated to the death, the teen's stepmother, Chantel Hudson, said she was briefed by the FBI that one of Hudson's minor children may be facing criminal charges. The filing, which pertains to Hudson's child custody issued with her former husband, did not claim whether the criminal charge is connected to Anna's death. But that was basically where all this came from, where it was like, okay, so the stepbrother is listed as a suspect. So it was kind of like inadvertently found out, but law enforcement haven't come out themselves and said he's listed as a suspect. It's just been through those court filings. So another thing in this case has just been kind of like, wait, what? Like, just kind of weird, like not the norm of what we're used to when it comes to like finding out information.
It seems like more and more often these cases, the DA or the investigators are playing their cards close to their chest, you know what I mean? And taking a lot longer than we've seen in recent cases to release info to us.
And I think that they're going to try their best to keep it close to their vest. But the other thing too is this is going to be handled through Florida, from my understanding. So we'll get more information through like the sunshine laws, I think, rather than if this was going to be handled through another. Although I think the FBI, gosh, so it's mentioned Miami-Dade medical examiner, but I think FBI had the case because it was international waters. So I don't know as far as like, I guess, Florida sunshine laws, but I don't know if anyone in chat knows more about that. The date that the body was found, I think, was the 8th. I think. So this is the ex-boyfriend. This came out last night, as far as new. So this is fairly new. It's only like less than 4 minutes. But I thought it was interesting because it gives the backstory as far as like creepy behavior that this guy saw, and that he claims he reported to her parents and was like, this is red flag, like WTF. And they chose to look the other way, out of denial or whatever.
So sad.
Mm-hmm.
Too often that happens.
Especially when it's, see, I think that this is even more like sad because it almost makes it seem like the parents put their relationship before like the children. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, they don't want to deal with this supposed situation maybe because they're just trying to start a life together or something. Do you know what I mean?
I think you're right, because it's poignant, because like, I mean, obviously Alex in her live the other day was saying like, if, you know, she couldn't stay with someone if their kid had like killed or harmed their kid. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's more to do with that. Like, they don't want to even consider, they didn't want to consider it that could have happened because they knew it would have just caused tension between them. So like you say, they were more focused on their relationship rather than what was right and what needed to be done, you know. And it's all too common where people choose their relationships over their kids, like in this situation, or like what I believe Jennifer Soto did, you know what I mean? When I believe she knew Stearns was allegedly, you know, I allegedly believe, you know what I mean? I'm not saying this as a fact, but that she knew Stearns was, you know, molesting her daughter, and for the, you know, for the sake of not being single and needing a man, you know what I mean? She being so like, have such low self-esteem and being so, you know, selfish, she just turned a blind eye. Like, that's what I believe, and I think that happens way more often than I think society is willing to accept.
So there's also, this was another thing that came out that I just forgot too, that I figured I would tell you before I play this. There was also information that like when they got off the cruise, the stepbrother went to the hospital. Did you hear that?
That's another new thing. Thanks for filling me in on this, and thanks for Alex for bringing all these updates in. And I hadn't heard that, so that's very telling. You know what I mean? I'm sure she fought back.
Yeah, so I don't know what that was about, but he's been released. By Seth, thanks for stopping by. He's been released from the hospital, and he's living with like another relative, I guess.
Oh, I had heard that part. I'd heard that part. Alex mentioned that, and I mean, I think that is really unusual. Like, because Alex said, and I agree with her, that like, wouldn't you want your son close to you? Like, even if he did do it, you know what I mean? It's probably going to be the last time you see him for a long time, not behind, you know, a prison cell wall. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And the thing too that makes all this sort of, it's strange because he hasn't been named as a suspect or arrested, but at the same time, the way that cruise lines work, like, you cannot enter the room without this, like, you know, key thing, like a hotel, you know? And that key swipe isn't just like at a hotel, like where, well, I guess it is logged at a hotel too. Like, they know, the computer knows like what time that card was swiped, when you entered, when you left, and the same thing as a cruise line. So if it comes down to like, oh, well, he hasn't been named as a suspect, like they have like a sort of a time of death, and she didn't leave that room because it's like a casino in the sense as well that there's cameras everywhere.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like as you say, it's near on impossible to do something and not be seen on a cruise, or it's just like you said, it's just the same as a casino. They've got eyes everywhere, you know what I mean? But thanks. I'm glad Alex's comment. She's like, glad that I'm getting into the case. There's maybe a group discussion soon. Like, I would really, really like that, Alex. I think that would be really cool, because it's a case that's, it's difficult to even comprehend that, someone could do that to the step sibling, you know what I mean? And but it's something that we really want to get to the bottom of, and it's one that's, everyone's got their eyes on. It seems even not people who are true crimers are looking into this case.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And also, guys, if you go to the description box, Jay's name is in there with an @sign. So it's @JWarren333. And then he's discussing other cases on his channel as well. So the other night you did sort of a true crime recap as well, with the Celeste Rivas case, aka David, out of California, and then you talked the Epstein stuff. So there's definitely a lot of people who are interested in these updates to this case. So guys, check them out too if you want to.
Thank you so much, Amber.
Yeah, and us, again, Alex is always invited. I told her that earlier today too. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing Saturday. I'll send you the link if you want it. Jay and I loved talking with you. So this is the ex-boyfriend.
Your name is Josh too. Spell your last name. TEW. All right. And how old are you?
15.
15. And how did you meet Anna?
Through a past relationship last year.
And how did you actually meet with her? In school?
At school.
At school. What type of person was she?
She was a great woman, I met her at school.
And the circumstances behind her death, you find them to be suspicious? And if so, tell me why.
It was suspicious because I knew that the brother did it, and yeah.
How do you know that?
Because of the past things that happened with him, like I was saying.
Which were what?
About the FaceTime and stuff.
What's the FaceTime?
Whenever I was on FaceTime with her, and when I was on FaceTime with her, and she was laying down, and the brother tried to go on top of her, and
you saw that.
Yeah,
and then how did she react to that?
I was like, "What the hell are you doing in the room?" Then he got scared and like ran away, and I heard his footsteps like running through the house, because he got caught.
So when you learned of her passing, what was your reaction?
I ran away. He ran away. It was kind of crazy.
And when you learned that she passed away, how did you feel?
I felt very sad, because that was my first love. She was the best that ever happened to me. And I'd even walk to her work to see her, for like 5-10 minutes.
Did you talk with her before her death?
Like 3 weeks before it, yes, ma'am. I was actually supposed to go on the cruise that she went on, but we broke up before then.
When did you split?
We split up like 6 months ago.
6 months.
Okay. And everyone said she's just a bright light. So many people wearing bright colors today. How would you describe the kind of person she was?
She was a great person. She definitely knew how to throw on her outfit. She was great, she knew how to put on colors. It wasn't like a basic outfit.
And this is your mom?
Yes,
She's okay with you talking to us?
Yeah, but we need to go.
Okay. Just wanted...
Okay.
What should happen next?
Thank you.
What do you think should happen?
I think that he should get thrown in jail for as long as possible. And yeah.
And when did you move into the house?
I have no idea.
Like a year or two?
Maybe like a year ago. I think so. I don't
You'd
know.
like to see justice for
I'd like to see a lot of justice. Yes.
Has she ever complained about his behavior before?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay. What did she complain about?
She complained about him being uncomfortable, or her being uncomfortable around him, because of the fact that he tried to go on top of her in the bed, and because of that, she tried to go and stay the night at her friend's house and to dodge the staying the night at her house.
So that happened more than once?
Yes.
Did she ever bring that up with her?
It happened one time, around like 3 a.m. that night.
They're telling me when you were on the FaceTime call with her,
Yes, sir.
3 a.m.
Yes.
Did she ever report that to her father?
No, I have not. I've reported it to the FBI.
And what is your name, ma'am? Okay, thank you.
So, Delana, where did they find him, or did he find the media? I think no. I think for some reason, I don't know if this has happened to anyone else, but Truman Show keeps coming up. The movie keeps coming up automatically on YouTube and just starts playing for me.
I saw that. I saw that for you, and I was weirdly paranoid because I thought it was mine coming onto the screen, because I watched that movie weirdly frequently.
I've only seen parts of it because it's so bizarre, but I'm going to text you a theory that I have, but I can't say it. Like, you'll know
we're
when
in the Truman Show.
What?
That we're in the Truman Show.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say.
Am I
along those lines.
Oh God, I knew it.
Mm-hmm. You were afraid of that.
No, that's funny because it's actually a legitimate disorder that was like I guess people like sites, said was real after the movie came out, that people after it started, like people who had like schizoid personalities who were paranoid started going, oh my God, this is exactly how I feel like right now. So my life could be a TV show. So I think it's a very powerful movie because it works on multiple levels like that, but also we live in like the world of reality TV, you know what I mean? So like in a way it kind of did come true.
It has to do, chat is telling me to share it, has to do with me, like a lot of, you ever see memes and stuff about us living in a matrix?
Yeah.
So I've been kind of looking at stuff, like, even if it's just joking memes like that, like on other platforms too. And then as soon as I kind of started going down that rabbit hole of things being like a matrix, that movie keeps coming up on my YouTube. It just pops up and I'm like, it's just weird.
It's funny in that film, like his fake friend, like because they have to do like product placement in it. So like mid conversation, one of the characters just turns away from Jim Curry's character, who doesn't know it's all a TV show, and just goes, "Now that's a beer," and just like the camera pans in on the beer.
I love Jim Curry so much.
It's just so funny. But yeah, I'll have to dig deep on that because that sounds interesting. Because I love the idea of the Matrix and all this kind of stuff. It's very up my street.
Delana says, yeah, I think it's strange that he's speaking to the media, but the family isn't, in my opinion. So he, I guess, came forward, and I think his father came forward to law enforcement and like handed them information, and then the media like also like got that interview, but it was something to do with like the dad and him describing to like law enforcement the incident on that FaceTime. So, and I think the family, from what I've seen already and kind of discussed already, like, I don't want to judge, but at the same time, we kind of were saying like she should have had her own room, etc. If they knew that he was creepy and all the stuff from the ex-boyfriend, like I'm just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
Brevard County teen who died on a cruise ship. How 18-year-old Anna Kepner died is still a mystery. Family and friends are gathering right now for a celebration of life.
West 2's investigative reporter Justin Checker is live across the street from the Grove Church in Titusville. And Justin, the family has asked for privacy during this service.
Yeah, we are not invited inside this church for the celebration of life. Over the past hour, I've seen a number of people arriving to remember Anna Kepner, and many of them are wearing blue, which was her favorite color. We're also learning new information from a hearing this morning in the child custody case involving the 6-year-old stepbrother identified in court documents as a suspect. I also had the chance to speak with Anna Kepner's birth mother.
She always wanted to make people laugh. She loved the water.
Anna Kepner's birth mother, Heather Wright, wants answers about how her daughter died on the Carnival cruise ship earlier this month.
No, the FBI has not tried to contact me at all.
After the Carnival Horizon returned to port in South Florida November 8th with her daughter's body, Wright says Anna's father did not reach out to her.
He never once tried to call me, get a hold of me, and anything when she died. I found out through Google.
Court documents in a child custody battle say the FBI is investigating Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother as a suspect. The attorney for the boy's mother, Chantel Kepner, is asking the court to seal any new filings.
The press has been hounding both myself and my client.
During Thursday morning's virtual hearing in the custody case, Mrs. Kepner's attorney told the judge,
the FBI has cleared my client from any wrongdoing.
Her ex-husband's attorney filed an emergency motion. The father wants custody of their 9-year-old child and for the court to address the placement of the 16-year-old.
The cruise was in international waters that the young child, not the 9-year-old, but the 16-year-old was allowed to drink. The teenagers were given their own room in which to stay.
There are videotapes on the ship that confirm that there was absolutely no drinking.
The 16-year-old is not in law enforcement custody, and right now, he's not staying with his immediate family.
The parties have agreed for the 16-year-old is now placed with a maternal relative.
The judge mentioned the possibility that Anna's stepbrother could be asked to testify in this custody case, but his mother's attorney objects to that.
I would have difficulty in them putting the 16-year-old on the stand because I don't want anything done that would incriminate the young man.
As family and friends gather inside this Titusville church for Anna's celebration of life, her mother is remembering how she got into cheerleading at a young age.
We had her in dance and gymnastics since she was 3.
And the attorney for the stepmother's ex-husband says Anna Kepner and her stepbrother were staying in the same room on that cruise ship. Miami-Dade medical examiner hasn't announced the cause of her death, and the FBI is not providing any updates at this time. Covering Brevard County live in Titusville, I'm Justin Shecker, WESH 2 News.
Greer's Garden asked how long the parents were married for.
For the first time since 18-year-old Anna Kepner was found dead aboard a Carnival cruise ship.
I think I heard over a little over a year. Don't quote me. I shouldn't even probably just say I think, but I remember kind of wondering the same thing. And in every little thing I was kind of following, I think that that's what it was. It was like, see, to me, I don't think a year is that long to kind of marry someone and all that. Like, I think he was only like living around her for a year is what I heard. So I guess it doesn't really say that they were married a year, but that he was around her for a year.
That seems a bit of a short amount of time, to be honest.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think maybe we'll get more clarity on that in the future. I'm trying to find this link to share, but of course I have so many tabs up because we've got so much to discuss. This is going to take us into the Karen Reed case. So it's going to give us a little bit of information on Anna Kepner, and then it's going to kind of transition automatically through Court TV into Vinnie Politan's Karen Reed coverage. So we're going to start discussing the Karen Reed civil case right now. It has come out this week that she will be suing. Hold on, actually, let me show that. I posted it on my community page. So 3 days ago, so this week. So according to the court documents, on Tuesday, Karen Reed filed a lawsuit against Michael Proctor, Yuri Bruchanek, Brian Tully, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. It claims they all conspired to frame her for the murder of Officer John O'Keefe in 2022. And they've also named several members of the Massachusetts State Police. So we're just going to watch a little update on Anna and that Karen Reed through Court TV. So anything you want to add in about Anna or Karen at this moment?
Well, I think I've said everything I want to say about Anna, and because there's new stuff, so I'll have to take some time to ponder it all, because I'm just hearing some of this stuff about her stepbrother. Because in the past it was just pure speculation. Like we were speculating about that maybe being a theme in the morning chat I was in this morning, morning radio chat, but. As regards to the Karen Reed civil suit, I'm just really proud of the fact that she's doing this. She's seeking justice from people who were, I believe, totally conspired to set her up. And it's good that finally she's going to get her day to hopefully get her revenge.
Yep. I'm curious where chat is, and I know Pointer Lover, you and I, we definitely believe, Delaney, I believe also that she was framed if you think that Karen did it, then just that's totally fine. Just let me know. I'm just curious where everyone's thoughts are at. I think after 2 trials that it's pretty clear that she wasn't the person who killed him, and that through the science and through the experts and physics itself, he wasn't hit by a vehicle at all. So just an update on Karen Reed's lawsuit claiming that she was framed. For those who don't know what's going on, Karen Reed, who was acquitted earlier this year of the major homicide charges related to the death of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, has now filed a civil lawsuit in Massachusetts alleging that she was framed by law enforcement and others. The lawsuit was filed in Bristol County Superior Court and names multiple defendants. So we've already named them, so I don't need to go through them again. In her complaint, Reed alleges gross misconduct by Massachusetts State Police, which I think she'll have no problem showing that, especially with the, them never going through the house, no search warrant in the house, no police interviews even with people who were in the house recorded. Again, they don't have to record them, but it just seems like they were on a dead set to just go after Karen Reed with, confirmation bias to begin with in that whole investigation. The lawsuit contends that O'Keefe was killed inside the Albert's residence. Then his body was moved outside, and a false narrative framed Karen Reed for his death. So many people also who say things like she admitted to hitting him. That's not what was said. So that's something that's been misinterpreted by other podcasters, people who, I guess people call them guilters, which are people who think that she's still guilty and that she got away with it. It's also been misrepresented in the mainstream media that that's what she said. So on the scene, she gives him CPR. She literally has his blood and stuff all over her face. She's in shock. She's confused. And she says, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Because she doesn't know what the heck happened. So I just want to reiterate that, because to me, it still is being, and I've seen it specifically on X. X is one of the worst social media platforms as far as like the number of trolls, and just like, it seems like that's where people go where they want to like hate.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's honestly, it's a view of the psychological. It's more like a psychological study into the minds of people, because it reminds me of like old school kind of Xbox Live, Call of Duty lobby trolling. You know what I mean? Like where you just hear like every racial slur under the sun said like 1,000 times. So if you're going there to try and get like factual, unadulterated, info, especially on true crime cases, you're going to be hard pressed. But I mean, I only really go there for comedy these days, and just to mess around really, and it's not something I pay that much attention to or would ever take seriously if I'm researching anything at all.
Yeah, it's like I love X, but it's a love-hate relationship, whereas like they're always the first to kind of share something like an update. So I go to X for like, okay, is this really what's going on? Like that's how I got a lot of updates in these cases. But then I stumble across all this, like it's pretty much the Wild West on X.
I would
no
have
other
said
way
the
to put
same
it.
thing. I was thinking of it. It is the Wild West. You know what I mean? It's like there's a little bit of good in there, but with all that freedom and all that lawlessness, you know what I mean? It can be difficult to kind of sift through, all the craziness and get, the info you need to get.
And I honestly, there was so many kind of mishaps in the Karen Reed investigation and John O'Keefe investigation. Like I'm also to the point where I'm like, why hasn't the FBI made a statement? Like, why can't they? The fact that they haven't come out and said we're still investigating, to me means that they are, and that, this whole civil case, I'm wondering, are the feds okay, good. We're going to examine their depositions. Is that where this is headed? Or is FBI just we can't make an arrest because the investigation was so flawed? You know what I mean?
I think, it's a mixed bag, because I'm thinking, Higgins as well, ATF, all the shit that we think he's done. You know what I mean? Going to the police station, where the Sallyport video was altered. I believe was altered, the CCTV. So like, he's a federal agent. So if they're going to, do that, you'd think that they'd be doing it for especially him. You know what I mean? Because you can't trust really, little like local law enforcement anywhere around there to do a good job. They're too compromised. You can't even trust Boston PD because Miss Denver is Kelly Denver's or Divas or whatever people want to call her. Is well, I think she's been fired now, but yeah, like that the case in the allegations of corruption are linked to Boston, are linked to surrounding police departments as well. So if anyone's gonna, if there was a reopening of the case, which I don't think there will be, or a reinvestigation, I think it will come from the feds, if anyone, and that would have to come from pressure directly from the White House itself. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only way.
Yeah, like I feel like no news is good news as far as like, because we've seen it, we'll get to it, but in Summer Wells, like TBI, like yes, that's the state entity, but we've seen in other cases where FBI has said like, we're still investigating, let us know if you have any tips, this and that. But like the fact that they haven't come out and said that in John O'Keefe's like investigation, I'm thinking like no news is good news, and they're really actively looking to see like what could maybe be said under oath in these like deposition, if it gets to that, because there's a lot of people who are like, well, they'll put in their motions to dismiss and it might get dismissed. There's other people who say no, they're not going to get dismissed because Karen has so much against, to back up her claims of like, you did this to frame me. Like you said, the Sallyport video, like that was proven to be altered. You know what I mean? Like they tried to alter a piece of evidence so that it fit her. Like, they definitely have valid things that I don't think will get dismissed, but will it settle before we get to certain things? Or, I don't know. I just feel like maybe no news is good news as far as like, because there was this whole thing about Hank Brennan saying in court, like, oh, there's no investigation. The feds aren't investigating. So it was like, but who's going to believe Hank?
He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know. They wouldn't tell him. You know what I mean? Because what give his people that he, if they are involved, people that are pretty close to him that he's been using as witnesses and things. So, like, why tell him? It's got nothing to do with him. The feds wouldn't tell him. You know what I mean? So
people took his word and they're like, see, like the guilters. It's like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think that those people are like the smaller. They were always small in number, but like they're even smaller in number now. You know what I mean? I think it's come to be seen. But as well in the civil case, it has to be seen, and this is proven that they, like you said earlier, they didn't do a search of the Albert's place, which is like a big what the fuck. And also the whole Buchanan thing of in the discussion of before they even got there of this guy's house is a cop and this guy is a cop. We're going to do it this way. You know what I mean? That is already corruption. That already makes them liable. You know what I mean? And you've got to ask the question. You've got to ask these questions of these people. Like, how did you know that this guy is a cop? How did you know that that guy's house is a cop? Did you ever know the Alberts before? You know what I mean? And do some real digging, because I mean, I know they denied it in the criminal trial, but you never know. Like, someone could, close to them could have a change of heart and dob them into the media or to authorities or whatever. And, you never know. Everything's on the table in this case. And it's not like anyone I've ever seen before, because admittedly, there were moments where, I was worried that she would get convicted and that it would be a big miscarriage of justice. But I guess in a way it restored my faith in the justice system to a degree. You know what I mean? Not completely, obviously, but to a degree. That there is a way that if someone's set up and like all the authorities say they're guilty, it doesn't make them guilty. You know what I mean? If people, thankfully, ordinary people have more better critical thinking skills than I originally thought.
Yeah, and so we're gonna watch a little bit of this court TV update, not like the commentary from people, but I'm the same boat as you. Like, it's like someone needs to be held accountable. You know, it's just, it obviously wasn't Karen.
Exactly.
A fatal mystery aboard a Carnival cruise ship is unfolding in Florida. Anna
Karen.
Kepner, an 18-year-old high school senior from Titusville, Florida, was found dead aboard the Carnival Horizon on November 8th, 2025. Family and classmates remember her as a straight-A student, a cheerleader and gymnast who had recently completed military entrance testing and planned to enlist after graduation. Tonight, new details being reported about who found Anna and what the death scene looked like. Meanwhile, Brian Walsh seemed like he was a wealthy, successful businessman until he got caught up in a major art scam. The feds indicted him on charges of selling fake Warhol paintings.
I kind of want to follow this too. I've kind of done a little bit of background, but he did plead guilty already to a bunch of charges, but not the murder, I guess. So there'll still be a trial. So if you guys are interested in this, let me know.
I would love to check this out. He reminds me of this other criminal who I can't remember his name, but he did a similar kind of like white collar crime and alleged murder thing. So like, I guess these guys tend to have a look to them.
Wow.
At the same time this was happening, his wife Anna was doing extremely well at work. She landed a lucrative position with a realty company that had her splitting her time between home with Brian and their 3 boys and Washington, D.C., where her employer was. The federal indictment and the commuting to work put a strain on their relationship. Then things went really bad when Anna seemingly vanished after New Year's Eve with friends in 2022 going into 2023. The investigation resulted in the arrest of Brian Walsh for the murder of Anna, and today, a moment no one saw coming in the courtroom as Brian Walsh makes some devastating admissions. We'll show you what happened. But first, Karen Reed's story has become one of the most polarizing legal battles in Massachusetts history. Prosecutors accused her of striking her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV and leaving him to die in the snow. Allegations she fiercely denied throughout her high-profile criminal trials. Reed insists she was framed, pointing to what she believes is a cover-up inside the tight-knit Albert and McCabe households, where John O'Keefe was found. Now, after walking out of the courtroom
I just have to pause it. Sorry, Karen, I paused it on her face like this. But I mean, just thinking about, for those who don't even know this, the details in this case, one of the people that were at that house and were at the bar before John and Karen pulled up to the house in her vehicle, he was seen to have been texting Karen. She ignored him, and then she ignored him in person that night. And then he, after the murder takes place, disposes of his phone on a military base and takes the SIM card out and disposes of that in a separate trash can on a military base. You know, so just that whole thing is so sus. And it's like, how easy is it going to be to lay out in court kind of that whole scenario in front of the jury, or, you know, and be like, is this normal, like, behavior from people?
It's not, as Brian Higgins would say.
Oh my gosh.
Hi, Amy. I'm glad Amy's in the chat. She was very like on the ground, boots on the ground for the Karen Reed case.
Yes.
She was very much in the Free Karen Reed, you know, movement, going there to the trial with people, you know what I mean? And she's got her own channel and she talks about true crime, and she's really cool.
That's so awesome that, like, you know, you being boots on the ground, Amy, gave you a totally different perspective on such. I really think that this case is going to be like historical in the sense of true crime. Like, I think that lawyers will probably study this case as well, both trials, and I can't wait for your discussion Sunday on John Bonet.
I totally agree with you. I'm in the same boat on both points. I think that it will be cited by lawyers in generations to come. and I think media pundits and legal pundits as well, because it shows people power. You know what I mean? I've not seen a case in America where the people have gotten behind someone as strongly as they have with Karen. And I think that really helped and really did make a difference. And I've seen it in other countries and in other cultures, but never in America, where people just from like a lot of different backgrounds, not just one particular background, not just people from her background, have come out and taken to the streets, to support her. And I think that it's going to be the start of something big where corruption and framing and the person with the seemingly the smaller voice will be heard the loudest, as opposed to, the other way around, where it's these authorities, these people with power who were in the past always listened to, and the women like Karen Reid, ignored and forgotten about. So I think that marks a change in societal and cultural attitudes and legal precedents and practices.
I agree. And you just made me think of another aspect too, like the fact that, there was such a grassroots movement behind Karen Reid. It's just a sign of the times, like in a way of like, they went to trial twice. And what's oddly ironic is we've seen so many cases end with plea deals where we felt like, okay, I don't think we got even close to the truth because it ended in a plea deal and we didn't get the trial. And what's strange in this case is the people who she is suing, claiming that they helped frame her, had a group chat. And one of the messages that got brought to the surface through the trials is that they had somebody said something like to the effect, I can't remember who, maybe you or Amy remembers, hopefully she pleads out and this goes away, like something like that. So it was like, they wanted it to end in a plea deal so that it just went away, which kind of adds to the fact that plea deals kind of close things up prematurely before the truth. And it kind of shows them conspiring together, like maybe she'll just admit to it and like plead guilty and we won't have to deal with testifying or whatever.
I totally agree. It shows, like, obviously we've got with the Watts case with Kohberger. I think that obviously they're in law enforcement as well, so they know all too well that those plea deals and agreements are all too often used to just silence cases and have them just swept under the rug and forgotten about, and thought that Karen would be intimidated by it all and traumatized enough that she would just cop and fold. But they were wrong. She's stronger than they are. She's stronger than they thought she was. And you know what I mean? People saw what was being done to her and rallied behind her. And it gives me like good faith for people that like we're willing to see someone who's been, who we don't know, who it's not in our, we're not gaining anything from, defending her and going to bat for her and for the people like Amy who actually were there on the ground, you know what I mean? Like she was losing time from a kid, from potential work, all to do something that she believed in, that she believed was right. And I think that if more of us in, the world start acting and living like that rather than being consumed by our own kind of selfish interests, lead a more altruistic life, I think we'll live in a better world as a whole, and there'll be less corruption and less predatory actions by the people in power, because I think that the people in power oftentimes reflect society.
I agree.
Being found not guilty by a jury, Karen is headed back to court, filing sweeping civil lawsuits against the Alberts and McCabe's and investigators, accusing them of defamation, conspiracy, and destroying evidence. How much more will be revealed about what happened the night John O'Keefe died? I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. This is going to be one jam-packed hour of true crime. Get ready. Let's begin. I'll never forget this scene. I was up there in Dedham, Massachusetts, outside the courthouse, waiting for the verdict in the Karen Reed trial, surrounded by a sea of pink, hundreds and hundreds of people wearing the color pink, all believing Karen Reed was not guilty, all believing that she was being wrongfully prosecuted and framed for the murder of John O'Keefe. Then came the verdict and the moment when Alan Jackson and Karen Reed stepped out of that courthouse with this huge win. It's difficult to really talk about how big this was in the legal world. I mean, this is one that will be remembered for decades, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country. This is one of those all-time wins that you always reference and you always talk about. And this one, I think, is a bit of a game changer because it was one, it's very unusual. It was one where the public sentiment was against the government. The public sentiment was with an accused murderer. And in the end, the accused murderer was set free. Extremely unusual, and also attacking and undermining perhaps future cases involving the government. There might be, I think, a raised level of skepticism in the public discussion and perhaps with jurors who were sitting down and listening to evidence in courtrooms. So this was a big case. And the defense won despite the fact that Judge Cannone kept out a lot of the evidence that the defense wanted to present. I mean, the case they presented wasn't exactly the case that they wanted to present to the jury. Judge Cannone kept out a lot of records, phone records, witnesses, testimony, and allegations that the defense wanted to put in front of the jury, but were unable to. So here we have a civil case that's now been filed by Karen Reed against the folks in that house and some of the investigators. And the question tonight really is, what will we learn? It's almost like unfinished business. Yeah, the trial's over, the verdict was not guilty, but there's still so many lingering questions.
And like I've been saying this, and I know you feel the same way, but like everyone was like, oh, Karen's not guilty. They were either mad about it, celebrated it, and then everyone just kind of like stopped pushing, besides Loophole Lawyer, Turtle Boy, maybe a handful of others, Amy, of course, and other people who've been following Karen Reed, but it just is like, does nobody care about like John O'Keefe actually getting justice? Like, to me, it's strange. Like, it seemed like they cared more about which was important to free Karen Reed because she was being framed. That, of course, was an important cause. But I'm just kind of like, where'd everybody go?
Exactly. I mean, like the banners, I mean, obviously, Amy and and everyone knows this really, that like the banners that the free FKR, free Karen Reed people were holding up was free Karen Reed, justice for John O'Keefe. Like it was a double header type thing. Like that's what everyone there wants as well. So hopefully we don't, lose sight in that, everyone. And we need to remember that, like, yeah, we need to get John justice. So if in this civil case some stuff can come out, enough can come out, then maybe further along the line they could reopen a criminal case, and some of these people could actually be charged for what I believe they did. I believe that the McCaves and the McAlberts, which is the combination of the two families, I think that they collaborated and murdered a police officer in cold blood. You know what I mean? And covered it up and tried to frame an innocent woman. So that is a big thing. You know what I mean? I think by anyone's stretch of the imagination, it's a big thing. And but yeah, like you say, we need to keep focusing on this and keep talking about it and keep the pressure on, like we do with other cases, and trying to hope that the authorities, give it a second look. But I don't think that any of the other cases like Watts will ever be reopened.
No.
But I think that this could be, because of how huge it is and because of the amount of pressure that is, because of public people going out on the streets and people like you, Turtle Boy, Amy, loads of different Loophole Lawyer, Vince, and loads of different people, and I think that like that's like a sign. Like we have to be like this with every case, because it shows you that they might try, because they tried with putting Bev in there and all the other fuckery that they did with both trials. They tried to get the result they wanted, but they failed. You know what I mean? And I think it shows you that with people power, we can change things.
I agree. And don't worry, Melanie, this kind of gives you a little recap. And then after this, we'll be discussing Idaho 4 briefly and Summer Wells update.
Awesome.
And what will we learn? It's a civil case. So people are going to be deposed. Records will be accessed. How does the defense testify once, and perhaps with jurors who were sitting down and listening to evidence in court? Because it's very unusual. It was one where the public sentiment was against the government. Going to be one jam-packed hour of true crime. Get ready. Let's begin. I'll never forget this scene. I was up there in Dedham, Massachusetts, outside the courthouse, waiting for the verdict in the Karen Read trial, surrounded by a sea of pink, hundreds and hundreds of people wearing the color pink, all believing Karen Read was not guilty, all believing that she was being wrongfully prosecuted and framed for the murder of John O'Keefe. Then came the verdict and the moment when Alan Jackson and Karen Read stepped out of that courthouse with this huge win. It's difficult to really talk about how big this was in the legal world. I mean, this is one that will be remembered for decades, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country. This is one of those all-time wins that you always reference and you always talk about. And this one, I think, is a bit of a game changer because it was one, it's very unusual. It was one where the public sentiment was against the government. The public sentiment was with an accused murderer. And in the end, the accused murderer was set free. Extremely unusual, and also attacking and undermining perhaps future cases involving the government. There might be, I think, a raised level of skepticism in the public discussion, and perhaps with jurors who were sitting down and listening to evidence in courtrooms. So this was a big, big case. And the defense won, despite the fact that Judge Cannone kept out a lot of the evidence that the defense wanted to present. I mean, the case they presented wasn't exactly the case that they wanted to present to the jury. Judge Cannone kept out a lot of records, phone records, witnesses, testimony, and allegations that the defense wanted to put in front of the jury, but were unable to. So here we have a civil case that's now been filed by Karen Read against the folks in that house and some of the investigators. And the question tonight really is, what will we learn? It's almost like unfinished business. Yeah, the trial's over, the verdict was not guilty, but there's still so many lingering questions. And what will we learn? It's a civil case. So people are going to be deposed. Records will be accessed that haven't been accessed before. People will have to testify if they're called to the witness stand. So let's go back to the trials. And the people who are being sued, many of them testified. I think all of them testified at either the first or the second trial. So what did they say? Take a listen.
The record is of a Google search at 2:27 a.m. on your phone. Is that right?
I'm not a phone expert, so I don't know. I can't read.
You're well aware. You don't have to be a phone expert to know that there was a Google search on your phone recovered at 2:27 in the morning. You know that. You've been told that. You've seen it. You've been asked about it dozens of times, haven't you?
I have been asked about it dozens of times, yes.
You see this first search that says Haas Long to Diane Coles?
I do.
What's that time?
You've got the, it's right over at 2:27.
AM or PM?
AM.
So these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job.
Objection.
So don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. Though, no ass.
The fact of the matter is you delivered that car to Canton PD to the Sallyport garage before a single piece of taillight material was ever found in this case. Trooper Proctor, is that correct?
Correct. It arrives at 5:31.
The defendant kissed me.
And how did you kiss me?
Not like a friend.
I inadvertently called Brian Higgins.
You say you inadvertently called him at 2:22 in the morning.
Yes.
How did you inadvertently call him?
Well, I don't know because it was inadvertent.
So I have to explain that.
Well, it's kind of like a butt dial.
So according to your phone records, you placed a call to him, and then 17 seconds later, he returned a call to you that lasted 22 seconds. Correct?
That's what the records reflect, yes.
I have no recollection of any phone calls.
Now, when you were asked about this, and you were shown these records at prior hearing, You have an explanation for what that 22-second call may have been and what the prior call may have been, correct?
Yes.
What was your explanation?
Well, I used a phrase that people commonly use as a butt dial.
I think I was going back and forth to the door. I was texting him. I think I put my phone in my pocket. I think I inadvertently, maybe I've called him.
What did you call it at the last hearing?
I believe I called it a butt dial.
In May of 2022, 4 months after Mr. O'Keefe's death, you got rid of your family dog of 6 years.
Objection.
Oh, is that true? Is that when you got rid of your dog?
I did not get rid of my dog. I rehomed my dog.
You also took your phone now without the SIM card, and you put that in the trash bag too, did you not?
Yes, sir.
Then you drove to a military base and you threw both the destroyed SIM card and the phone into a dumpster, did you not?
Well, I was cutting through the base, and I believe how I testified
Did you drive
was
to a military base, sir?
I was cutting through a base. Yes.
Did you drive to it?
Yes, sir.
And then you put both the destroyed SIM card and the phone itself, which were in a trash bag, into a dumpster on that military base, did you not?
I believe that's what I did. Yes.
Did you tell those law enforcement agents on August 9th, 2023, that you saw Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz go into the Sally Port together and alone with the SUV for a wildly long time?
That was my recollection at the time.
I almost forgot about all this. I mean, how many butt dials were there? Okay, so let's get to the civil complaint. This
Never
is the
forget
lawsuit
the butt
Karen Reed
dials.
has now filed
Mark
against
safe
many of these
butt
people.
dial.
It reads, in part, in the early morning hours of January 29th, Mr. O'Keefe was killed in the defendants, Brian and Nicole Albert's home at 34 Fairview in an altercation during a late-night house party with other defendants after a night of heavy drinking. The house defendants responsible for Mr. O'Keefe's death, some of whom had professional experience with police investigations, concocted a plan immediately after the altercation to avoid culpability and to frame Karen Reed. Proctor and others shielded the House defendants by intentionally sidestepping fundamental investigatory procedures. Proctor reported in text messages just hours into the investigation that the House defendants weren't going to get any bleep for this because he, meaning Brian Albert, is a Boston cop. Proctor then went so far as to manufacture evidence to ensure that Ms. Reed, not his friends and fellow law enforcement officers, was to blame for Mr. O'Keefe's death. This included planting evidence at the scene. These are the allegations, folks. Take a look at the actual counts now. These are the counts of the complaint. Count 1, malicious prosecution under the Fourth Amendment. Count 2, supervisory liability. Count 3, conspiracy to deprive Ms. Reed of her Fourth Amendment rights. Count 4, Massachusetts Civil Rights Act. Count 5, common law malicious prosecution. Count 6, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Count 7, civil conspiracy. Now, finally, let me read the official statement to Court TV from Karen Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson. Get set. Today's filing speaks for itself. It is a meticulously documented civil action grounded in evidence, law, and the Constitution. For more than 3 years, Karen Reed was dragged through a baseless criminal prosecution engineered by individuals who abused their authority, manipulated the investigative process, and trampled her rights. Our complaint lays out in stark detail the malicious prosecution, the conspiracy, the civil rights violations, and the intentional misconduct that these defendants visited upon an innocent woman. If these defendants want to answer for that under oath, we welcome it. What we will not do is legitimize a threat to file some imaginary defamation case. That threat is nothing more than a desperate attempt by these defendants to distract the public from the very real legal jeopardy they now face. When people start waving around defamation claims to mask their own legal troubles, it tells you everything you need to know. They don't want sunlight. They want silence. Karen Reed spent years fighting for her freedom against a corrupted investigation. Now she's fighting for accountability. And unlike the criminal case, this time the defendants don't get to hide behind badges, back-channel favors, or manufactured narratives. They will have to answer in a court of law for every lie, every omission, every manipulated report, and every constitutional violation they committed. Karen Reed is not backing down. Our team is not backing down. Accountability is coming, and these defendants can threaten all the phantom lawsuits they want, but the truth doesn't flinch.
So then the rest of this episode just has panel members come on and then they talk about, the civil case and all that. So I don't want to just go through the whole episode, but we pretty much covered the update in it. And I'm very excited to see where this leads to. Again, this is going to take years to kind of go through the courts. There'll be every single person that she is suing will try and do like a motion to dismiss. It's just going to be like an uphill battle, but the truth is, the civil route, I think, could bring us more answers as far as getting an understanding of what happened to John O'Keefe that night. But yeah, no, she, in my opinion, Melanie, is not guilty. and two juries, pretty much the first jury was hung, they couldn't decide, and then in her retrial they found her not guilty for the murder of her boyfriend. But now she's pretty much, this is her chance to kind of be like, you guys put me through hell, you tried to frame me, so now you must pay.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's her revenge arc, and I'm all here for it. Good for her. And, you know, like, more can be allowed in a civil trial. So like you say, we're a lot more likely to get more information about what actually happened, or any new information. It's likely to come out in that, you know what I mean? And there's probably a lot that wasn't allowed in either trial. So, you know, it's anyone's guess what that will be.
Yeah, and how long it'll take, or, you know, how far this goes, all that is going to be very interesting. So let's get into Summer Wells. Have you followed Summer Wells, Jay?
Oh, absolutely. It was
okay.
I wasn't in this true crime community when it broke, but I was in other ones that were slightly more crime. So I'm very happy that I'm here now with all of you, because you're all a lot more professional and not, you know, mentally unhinged like those crime creators.
This was a really tough case to kind of follow, like, with it being professional and factual, because it spiraled so quickly into the drama and the crama, and it was due to channels, but it was also due to, you know, the parents and people involved in the case itself. And then there were channels who were involving themselves in the case, like there were ones that were in the crama, like specter of this, but then there was also a retired homicide detective who decided, which looking back to me is just so bizarre, like, to think that this actually happened. But like, she went missing in June 2021, 5 years old, from Hawkins County, Tennessee. I'll play the update here. It's like a short, but I'll give you the little background for those that don't know. And she's been missing since June 2021. Her parents have never been listed as suspects, although a lot of people have suspected them, including myself. And that's the thing, is like, this was very early in my true crime, like, journey, I guess you could say, on my channel. And it was so easy to get wrapped up in the drama of this case, because the parents truly did kind of play into it at times. Like, they were playing pranks on us, and it was just wild. It was absolutely wild. There were things, it got very, very dark. So I'll
exactly. I mean, I can speak for, like, friends of mine, Cher and Mark, who, you know, both of them, like, did the best they could to try and, like, get on the ground and figure out what went on, and trying to, you know, they interacted with the Wells family to try and kept an open mind throughout. But, you know, speaking to them, like they were always getting, like, mixed messages, several different narratives and stories from different family members, like, lied to, screwed around by them, sent down blind alleys. And, like, a lot of other people have said this about them, that they do this, that they're, like, grifting in a sense, and of people, and give people who are genuinely earnest in their feelings of wanting to help them, just treating them like shit, and lying to them about things that they shouldn't be lying about, and all kinds of stuff. So that's why people especially are suspicious of them, not just because of, you know, like the nature of how it happened, but also how they've acted since. You know what I mean? None of their attitudes have been normal. And Don Wells saying, "Oh, I'll see her in the afterlife. It doesn't matter." Basically, so basically, when asked, like, how he felt about her, possibly if she's dead or something like that, he was like, "Oh well, I'll see her in the afterlife," like, as if it just doesn't matter, as if it was nothing.
The biggest red flags for me, that was before she was missing a month, Jay.
Yeah,
she wasn't even missing a month, and the father said, I'll see her at the resurrection.
Yeah, I'll see her in the resurrection. Who gives a, you know, but in a way that was like, oh well, you know what I mean? Like the way you talk about, like, a co-worker that you didn't really like that much, but you were just being nice about because, you know, the cameras are on you and you're supposed to be, you know what I mean? Because they've died or they've gone missing. Like there was no, it was that same level of coldness as Jerry McCann, but it was more flippant about it, you know what I mean? It was more like he knew he was sounding like unbothered by it and was himself not bothered by coming across that way. But people talk about, everyone deals with things and reacts differently. Like, no, like 99% of people would be distraught, would be manic, would be depressed. You know what I mean? Like these normal stages of grief that you see in people with normal emotions and normal personalities. You know what I mean? And if they don't have normal personalities, that would suggest that they're mentally ill. And then it leads you to think, well, what do some people with mental illness do? Sometimes they're violent. Sometimes they commit crimes. Sometimes they do things that ordinary people could never dream of doing. So that's why these things are relevant. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we zero in on this stuff, not to, insult them or to be mean, because it's relevant to the case. It could be, you know what I mean? It could be point to possible motives.
Yep. I'll elaborate more on my feelings towards like the whole case, but let me play this little update. I was very happy to see this update because it's just a very sad case. It's so dark on very different levels. Like, I'll explain in a minute.
Into a little girl last seen in Hawkins County. The last reported sighting of Summer Wells was in June of 2021 from her home on Ben Hill Road. Today, she would be almost 9 years old. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation confirms last week agents were working with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, following up on a lead in Greenville on Van Hill Road. Agents will only say the investigation is ongoing. Tonight, an update on the years-long investigation into a little girl last seen in Hawkins.
So the update basically is TBI, local law enforcement, and FBI were on Van Hill Road following up a lead. This is one of the first kind of updates that they've kind of given us in a while. Like, most of the stuff, I'm just going to leave this on here so that you can kind of see the distance as far as a map. So the reason why I had to step away from this case was there was so many different reasons, but the main one was no new information from law enforcement. And we kind of all grew very like frustrated with that. And two, the way that this kind of spiraled out of control on YouTube with creators, with the parents, with neighbors making their own like YouTube channels and coming out and describing like the things that they heard and saw that day. And it was like they were just coming out to like grift, basically, it seemed, and felt like there was just, the more we looked into this, I mean, to flat out just say it, I mean, I seen the father in this case like high on meth and like shooting up, like, and he was live streaming on a channel, and it was just very dark. It was very much like you saw the substance abuse in the family. You heard about the day that they called 911 and like everything went down. Candace was wasted in the house and like wouldn't come out and like talk to law enforcement. And then came the pranks. And when I'm saying pranks, like there was like this whole like call on a channel where Candace is running around screaming, saying Don's been arrested, and then it comes out that she was just playing a prank on us. And like the more you get to know like the family and the environment, the more you realize that it's this very sad situation of like the parents have alcohol and substance abuse issues that have spanned over decades. It started when they were very early in their adolescence, that you can tell that it's like stunted their growth mentally, the mother and the father. It's been mentioned that they're not suspects and that they have passed a polygraph. So it leads you to think, okay, so could they maybe have not been involved, but like know what happened? So that's why they're not naming them a suspect. Like there's just so many different avenues that this case could have gone down. yes, there was DV issues that came out. There was like so many things that came out. There was CPS visits that came out to the surface. The remaining children that were in their custody, these boys like got taken away and put into foster homes and separated. And it turned into such a dark, depressing case because there was no updates. And all it was YouTubers and everything really just thinking that they were running the investigation, and like it just was so much chaos that erupted that it was to the point where like I removed videos that I made on this, and I just really stopped talking about it because there was no facts. And we, like you described their behavior and the things that they stated were just like red flag. Even the grandmother, we didn't even bring up the grandmother or the fact that the mother has a sister who's been missing too. So it's like her own sister goes missing and then her daughter goes missing. Like, and it's so many different scenarios that could have happened to this little girl that it was like, I can't come on here and just go over like scenarios over and over without updates. Whereas like in John Bonet, it's different because there was leaked crime scene photos. There's been, things that came out in the investigation that like really gave us a more broad, like, okay, well, these are the facts. We don't have the killer and it's still a mystery, but we can discuss it based on these facts. Whereas Summer Wells, it turned into just a circus, and, their behavior, the parents' behavior was just red flag for so many people. But it's like, what did they actually know? You know what I mean? Like, do they know what happened, but they weren't directly involved? Like, they didn't do the killings themselves. So is that why they're not being named as suspects? And like other people, like, because they are adamant that somebody came up there and took Summer.
I mean, personally, a polygraph test isn't completely 100% accurate. I mean,
Right.
That's why they're not used in the overwhelming majority of places. I think that especially on people who use drugs, you know what I mean? Like they may very well think that they don't know what happened, but they actually do. You know what I mean? And also with mental illness and all this kinds of stuff, it's difficult to kind of piece for that to even be held up as something that can even be, an indicator that they weren't. You know what I mean? I always thought, I did lean to the idea that they, one of their drug friends, came over to the place and partied with them, smoked meth, got drunk with them and stuff, and then realized how, lax they were towards Summer or their other kids. And so, this is an opportunity, where they take them to, do something disgusting with them, or to sell them into slavery or trafficking for money. Because they're an addict and they don't, obviously I have suffered with addiction issues. Ali has suffered with addiction issues, and like we would never have, even in our worst moments, do that. But sadly, some addicts can, like with all people, you know what I mean? There's levels of personalities. Some would do that for a fix, you know what I mean? Some are that low that they would do that, take a child and sell them on to someone sick. But like those are the theories I've always thought. But then there is also the other possibility that the parents were involved and there may have been abuse going on, and she was about to start school, and then it would have been noticeable. It's clear that there was abuse going on. There was neglect going on. Whether there was other kinds of abuse going on is debatable, but it's proven that they were neglected kids.
Yeah, and they had to come over and check their food supply, just what typically happens with CPS visits, and there was red flags because they had a visit coming up, you know what I mean? Like right before she went missing. So that was another thing that kind of led us down these paths of like, basically discussing the worst scenarios, but I'm not having anything from law enforcement to back up these scenarios. So it kind of became like, okay, so we're just going to come on here and just talk about the worst possible situations that could happen with a kid. And then we have nothing from law enforcement to say, like, we're working on it, or, they would randomly come out and say like, we're still investigating and let us know. But it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like, but channels built their whole audience off of this case and would only discuss this case, and they would have anybody on that was tied to even like anybody tied to this case they would have on, and then there was people in this case who have now passed away, like Jose. Like, I know that people might give me shit for this, but like I feel like maybe something kind of died with Jose, like as far as the truth. I don't know, but his whole scenario in this whole situation was always odd to me. And there was like talk about, I don't know, that just very strange stuff taking place in that house that it was discussed, including like sex things, them on meth, hooking up in the lawn and stuff like that. Like, I just don't know like what was true and what was just people
conjecture.
Yeah. And it got to be too much, and it still is sort of too much, because now it's, in this case, like, you want to voice your opinion and you're like, what these parents said and did like don't really align with like what a person who has a missing child like says and does, you know what I mean? And then there's people who are like, oh, how dare you judge them and all this stuff. So it's like, well, I mean, the law enforcement must be looking at them like strangely too, but then at the same time they haven't been named as suspects, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, but just because they're not publicly named as suspects, does that mean that they're not a suspect at the same sense? Like, maybe law enforcement is just like not showing us that card, you know what I mean?
I mean, Sher mentioned to me that they weren't monitoring, like either TBI or the local law enforcement were watching Don and Candace from afar. They were kind of surveilling them for a while, but didn't see anything, in the immediate aftermath of it, but didn't see anything that would indicate that they had done it. But you know what I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't have some knowledge or weren't involved. But like you say, it's such a frustrating case when law enforcement have seemed to be really dropped the ball on this and haven't been as proactive as they really should have been, bringing people in, making some charges, and doing some real police work, interrogation work, keeping the pressure on. You know what I mean? None of that has happened. And it's like, and that's where we see the void being left. People are just speculating, and then it becomes, in some people's eyes, more about the Wells themselves as opposed to Summer, because of how out there they are. And then it just becomes a circus, like you say, and then it's like, then there's like, you got these psychics, these like, I believe psychic people are real. There are some people who do have those abilities, but I think most are fakes, and sadly some fakes have latched themselves to this case.
Yeah,
it just absolutely snowballs it, and it's like the worst of the worst when these people are fake and they've been proven to, and they're exploiting a missing, possibly deceased child for money and for fame and clout. You know what I mean? That's the most wicked thing when it comes to, not the most wicked, but up there when it comes to spiritual practices. It's very manipulative, very predatory.
And the thing too is, like, in this case specifically, it deals with that Reverend Donna Serafina, like psychic lady, and like her theory in this case is so dark and so twisted and so horrific that it's like, I'm almost to the point where I'm like, how can you even come out and tell us that this is what you're seeing in this case? Like, I don't know. I just really think that but people eat it up and they love it. And they're like, yes, this is what happened. Like, she's talking about it being like some like snuff film. And it's like,
oh my God.
It's literally taking the absolute worst vision that like she can ever come up with. And she's basically saying like, yes, this is what I'm seeing. And people are running with it. And it's like, I really hope that that's not what happened. And it's like, but there's people who just like ran with that theory. And it's like, where is that coming from though? Like, as far as like evidence, like we come up with theories when we talk John Bonet, but like it's based off of like the handwriting that was left in the ransom note, and it's based off of the weapon that was found and where it's linked to as far as like the art kit that Patsy had. But like Summer Wells, like there's literally nothing that we can kind of go back to that's like circumstantial evidence and be like, oh yes, this is where this theory is coming from. So this whole like psychic theory that Donna has come out with, it's like really, I feel like it's shameful because there is no circumstantial evidence to back it up, but yet people ran with it as if this is the truth. And thank you for becoming a member, Diva Girl. I appreciate that. So yeah, it's just a very like convoluted like case to discuss on true crime. And if you're not like in the trauma aspect of it, like it's hard to kind of talk about it because there's very little facts.
Absolutely.
Robin brings up, a theory that I think is definitely possible because and this is why I say that this could be definitely possible, because one of the last images we have of her is her sleeping in the back of a truck, and she's, leaned up against the milk cartons that were bought at the store, and she's got her eyes closed and she looks like she's sleeping. Other people say she looks like she's dead. Like that's also open to interpretations of like what you think and see in those pictures. And it is a video as well. Like she accidentally took a video at first and then like they released the picture. Let me see if I can find it on Google. But so when you say like, oh, I think she fell asleep in the car, it's like, well, I could see that maybe being possible because one of the last images we have of her is in a vehicle. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's different than like coming up with a theory like Reverend Serafina, whatever her name is, Donna. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to back up that she was something about a stabbing too in her vision. Like, it was just so brutal. It's like, where are you coming up with this? And it's like, oh, she can just say it's her vision. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, for me, I think it comes from a position of just psychobabble. Like, she's just thinking in her head, let's just be the most vulgar, let's be the most cruel and most sadistic, because that gets the most clicks, that elicits the strongest emotional response. And in a sick kind of way, it's like she's some kind of energy vampire. Like she's taking the emotions. It's not the parents, because frankly they couldn't care less. They don't care. You know what I mean? They don't want this solved. They don't care. It's all superficial. But for her, she's taking Reverend Donna. She's taking the emotions of many people who are following the case, who are upset and concerned about all this, and worried rightfully about a little girl, and twisting them and using them and freaking people out and just filling them with dread and a lack of hope and benefiting off that financially. That's kind of like a vampire to a degree, if you think about it. And to me, it's very spiritually unclean and not the type of person who I would trust for psychical advice. And,
right.
But you're so right. And I'm glad that you have the same feelings I do about this, because I would have kept going on about it, and that's why I've avoided doing a live of my own about it, because of the circus that it attracts, and it shouldn't be like that.
It's unfortunate. Yeah,
exactly.
We want to keep her face out there. We want to keep remembering her, like she has not been found. She's still missing. We want that, but it's like, it becomes, okay, Melanie, thank you so much for being here. Join us tomorrow night. I think I'm going to start at 7, but it's just kind of going to be a hangout, chill live stream. But yeah, I'm happy that TBI and FBI and the local law enforcement obviously have shown to us that they are still following up on leads, that this is not a cold case, that there is still some activity, but there is also a part of me that's like, okay, like, where is it? I don't know. I wonder too if maybe some of it's for like political reasons, like make it look like we're still doing stuff, you know what I mean, to kind of appease the public, but I don't know.
I agree. I think it's more of a propaganda PR exercise as opposed to any kind of concerted effort, the search that we're talking about right now, because they haven't had any new info, or they haven't released that they've had any tips off anyone about anything. So it is just them going through the motions as they already have, and hoping that, you know, they hit on a spot that for whatever reason they missed times before, you know what I mean? And that's just like, I see that in the Moores murder case, you know what I mean, where they're still looking for the last victim who was buried up on the moors, you know, in near Manchester in England in the 1960s. You know what I mean? So they don't have any tips at this point. All the people connected to it are dead, but like they're still just going through the motions. And I hope that this isn't a case like that. I hope when I'm an old man, they're still not digging and looking for Summer, that there is closure, that she is found either safe or that she can have a proper burial and that we can close the chapter, you know what I mean? I really don't want that uncertainty. And like in obviously the Moores murders case, the parents had no involvement, and I feel the heartache for them. But in this, I don't think it's them that are the ones that are feeling this. I think it's us. I think we're the ones our emotions are the ones that have, you know, that the parents really should be feeling but aren't. And like, this isn't our kid, we never met her, but we all feel this like anguish and pain over, because it's a little girl, you know what I mean? Like, how can any normal human being not feel that way, you know? And they don't, the parents don't.
It appears they don't. And then of course this channel runs this whole minute long or so segment about how the parents declined a media request, and I'm like, I just start thinking about this whole thing and FBI, TBI, you know, they're investigating an area. It's like 9.5 to 10 miles from the house, and the parents don't want to make a statement. And I'm like, so then I can't help but wonder, was this all just kind of orchestrated to like reach out for law enforcement to reach out to the parents and kind of feel them out on like, where do they stand now? Like, because they had said like, oh, they're being cooperative, and then it turned into like they're not cooperative because they had like gotten a lawyer or they didn't want to speak to them. And I don't know like exactly where everything is now. Like I heard Don and Candace might not even be together anymore. Like they've kind of been on and off, and he's been in and out of jail too, like since 2021 for other related incidences. And I don't know. It's a very, very hard case because it's depressing and there's nothing solid from law enforcement. And I don't even know like if this whole lead was anything solid or if it's just them trying to, you know, hold up appearances, like make it look like we're doing something, or let's feel out how the parents are like this time around. Because like, even though they're not named as a suspect, like I'm not gonna say that means that they're not suspects, you know what I mean? Like that law enforcement doesn't have to come out and say like these are our suspects, you know what I mean? Like they can keep that to their vest too. Like the 911 call has never been released in this case. There's CCTV footage from Summer like with her grandmother, Hunter, and her mother like at these various stops that they made that day. So they went to the hospital, got hydrocodone pills for grandma's knee. They went to Sonic drive-through, got slushies and food or whatever. They went to other places too that you know have Rite Aid or some pharmacy that has like camera too, and that none of that information has ever been like released to the public. So just because they haven't come out and said these parents are suspects, like to me, like it doesn't mean that they're not. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. You know, and I think there's so much that points to the fact that at the very least they were negligent, and that, you know, no matter who it was, they are in some way either them or connected to them. There's no way that this is some random person who just did it by chance and opportunity.
Right. It's like, then that leads you to like, so then is it like you were saying earlier, like somebody that they used with that like took it upon themselves to, because that property is very specific to like, you have to know the property and like how to get there, you know. Her scent was like supposedly followed down through like a trail from their house, like through like some wooded stuff, like down the hill to like the road, and then like it dispersed. There's footprints that allegedly came out to being of interest during the night that they first searched for her. But in the same sense, like, just because there's footprints doesn't mean that that was from her that night. Do you know what I mean? Like, it could have been from the day before, or you know what I mean? Like, you just, that to me. And then there was statements made about the mother out for a run, and then there were statements made in the very beginning that Summer was last seen walking down the street. So there's been like conflicting things already, and it's like, we have nothing that we can kind of hang as like, this is factual. We have camera footage of this and that. So it's just always been like a very like elusive, speculative, conjectured filled case to discuss. And it's just kind of gotten like I said, like, I had to walk away for like my own mental health in a way, because it was like, like you said, you get attached to like the story and like wanting answers, and then no answers ever come, and it's like, okay, I guess I got to put this down, because there's nothing I can do that is bringing this to any conclusion. So it's like, I have to walk away.
Exactly. That's an important thing in true crime, I think, and in life in general. Like, if there's something that you feel like can become all consuming and there's nothing you can really do to change it, it's best to just walk away. You know what I mean? And if it's negative, you know what I mean? It's still hold out hope and follow the case. But like when you say there's nothing to follow that's new, all you're doing is really speculating, and is that really going to help? You know what I mean? You ask yourself these questions, and it's great that you can do that and have that level of discernment. But sadly, a lot of other people either can't or don't want to in true crime, and turn and snowball and like the neighbor. You know what I mean? Like saying, "Oh yeah, I heard some yelling," and then like making a channel just a grift for her. You know what I mean? It's just off the back of Summer's name. You know what I mean? And that's the only reason people were in there, not because they wanted to hear what Jody Sue said about some other creator. You know what I mean? Or what Jody Sue likes to do. It's that type of stuff as well, as I can assume is probably why you walked away. Same with me.
Yep. And
I got sick by it.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing is, like, I have a playlist, 31 videos. This is after I deleted some of them too. So there's like 31 videos, like, in case you guys want what I call like close to the facts, as far as like, I really tried. There are like couple hour long streams, 3 hour long streams. Like, this was when this case like really was like first broke, and like, I really did try to keep things factual. So if you guys want to dig into the case, go to the playlist. But as far as, I mean, besides this update, what more can we say? You know what I mean? I'm not going to join into the circus. Let me know what you think about this.
Statement of a new lead the agency followed up on in the search for Summer Wells.
It happened at the 3500 block of Van Hill Road, not far off from where Summer was last seen over 4 years ago. News Channel 11's Ansley Daniel has followed up on this new information, as the Amber Alert for Summer still remains active.
This is Van Hill Road. It's about 9.5 miles from the Wells family home on Ben Hill Road, where Summer was reported missing. As you can see, there are posters here with her information on them. And last week, law enforcement conducted a search on this road in the 3500 block. It's about 2 miles back from where I'm standing here. It's very similar to Beach Creek, as the homes are spread out and there is a lot of land. It's also close to the Greene County line. We did reach out to Dawn and Candace after the TBI confirmed a recent search in their daughter's case. They said they do not want to be interviewed, as they are waiting to hear more from the TBI, and quote, otherwise it is just more drama and stirred pain, so there was nothing to say, end quote.
So what do you think about that? And then I'll let you know what I think about
I
it.
think I am a little skeptical as to if there was a new lead or if there was a new tip. That like I'm more leaning in towards what I was feeling earlier in saying that this is more of a propaganda PR exercise more than anything else, you know. Sadly, I wish it wasn't.
And here's the thing. A lot of people have said the same thing, like, oh, the search is drama. And people have taken that as like, you know, they don't care. And like, it truly could be that way. You could think of it as like, wow, they're not even going to make us anything besides like, you know, we're going to wait to hear from TBI. Otherwise, this is just drama and more like heartache or whatever. It's like, you could take that two ways. You could take it as, you know, they're involved and they just don't care. Or you could take it as they're just fed up with like no answers from law enforcement and they're sticking by somebody came up here and took her and they don't know who, like what happened. You know what I mean? Like, and they're just kind of fed up. Like I'm to the point where I could literally see it going either way. I could see it as like, oh, another suspicious thing that they say, like, oh, they don't care. Or I could take it as like all of us, like they're fed up. They've told you guys somebody came up here and took her. Whether they know the person, like they very well could know, like, I think it's so-and-so, but they don't want to say, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't change the fact that like they've reiterated, like she was taken by someone. Like, is that true? You know what I mean? Like did come up there and take her and they're not like involved in a direct way, but they know what happened. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm either at that where like they know the person who's involved and they know exactly why this happened, or I'm at there was an accident that took place. Like she got left in the hot car. She couldn't undo the door or something and get out. Cause like I don't know, whatever reason, you know, maybe the car was like older and like didn't open for her or something. I don't know, but I'm open to there being an accident that took place, even if she choked on the piece of candy that grandma gave her that they're always talking about, or something happened on the swing but Candace and her mother were like messed up on drugs or alcohol. So then they covered it up rather than like being caught like negligent, like, you know, drunk or a high while their child got in an accident. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, people used to say that maybe she drowned and stuff, and that's what happened. Like she accidentally drowned and they were negligent. You know what I mean? Because like you don't have, it doesn't have to be. You know what I mean? I hope the tip is legit as well. Like, but I think my cynicism comes from just being with this case from day one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there've been so many points where like you think, oh, is this the start of something? Only to have your hopes just crushed down. So I hope I'm completely wrong. I hope this leads to her being found and people being arrested. I really do. But
Yeah.
I just can't, in all honesty, say that I'm confident about that. I really can't. But I hope.
Me too.
I hope I'm wrong.
I'm the same way. I'm to the point in this case where I'm so invested in wanting her to have a conclusion, like whether she's found alive or dead. Like I'm like, either this is a legit tip and like, yes, we're getting somewhere, and like I'm relieved to know that it's not cold, or it's I have to brace myself for I'm that type of person that I just have to think about what could also be like on the flip side, because then I don't get let down. Do you know what I mean? Because then I've already prepared myself mentally, like, I was wondering if it was that. Do you know what I mean? That's just the type of person
Amber.
I am.
I try to be the same on a lot of stuff. I think like cover all bases type thing. But I think when you just get hit in the face metaphorically so many times and let down by authorities and potential leads, it just makes you go, oh, you know what I mean? Like, is this ever going to end? You know what I mean? This whole awful situation, and you see it in so many cases. You just hope for the families and for the victim themselves that like, oh, can this torture just end? And you're not even living it. You know what I mean? You're feeling it, you know, vicariously through seeing all the reports and thinking how you'd feel if that was one of your people. You know what I mean? It's all a horrible situation.
It's like a case where if I'm just scrolling through like true crime stuff and I see a search, like something being mentioned about, oh, human remains were found here. Like if it's even remotely close to Tennessee, like I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh my God, like could it be Summer? Like, that's how invested in this case that I am, that I'm like, I'm always thinking about, like, are we going to find out that this was like a 5-year-old girl, and is it Summer? And I agree with Adrian. I think the key is the parents. They might not be the direct perpetrators, but they, I think, know like more about what happened.
I agree. I think that, like you say, I think there's obviously 3 theories that go around my head, that there was abuse that they were covering up, and then that's why, or it was negligent homicide where she died by accident, like she drowned, or I think maybe she got into their drugs and she OD'd or something like that, and then that would make them look terrible and they get charged with that. So they covered that up, or possibly that's a theory. And then also the other theory that someone that they knew came onto the property and kidnapped her. I think that in every eventuality that they're key to, like Adrian said, they're key to figuring out like what happened.
I agree. Like, I really do. One of the reasons why I kind of lean towards more of like you said, like maybe she got into the meds and she accidentally OD'd, or there was an accident, and because they were on drugs or alcohol or whatever, they covered it up, thinking, because the thing is, like, Don has come out saying, like, if there was an accident, Candace knows to call 911. She wouldn't just, cover it up. And it's like, but Candace has been shown to like kind of be mentally like a teenager, unfortunately. And I'm not certain that she wouldn't try to cover something up if they were all screwed up on drugs or alcohol. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not convinced that like she would think like, no, I got to do the right thing and come. She didn't even go down and talk to the cops, I guess, when they came there the night of. Like, she was drunk inside, allegedly. So it's like, the other reason is why I lean towards it being like an accident, or like an accidental OD with their own drugs that they had, is the odds that her sister, Rose Bly, her name is, was, they believe, trafficked or like kidnapped or whatever. She's missing regardless. So the odds that 2 people related to Candace, the mother, like closely, were both kidnapped, like, I just think is kind of really like unlikely. So
you got to see the odds on that. Like, have you ever known anyone who was kidnapped?
No.
Neither have I. So there you go.
Right. So yeah. But that was the update on Summer Wells. This last update, again, we hope and pray that this leads somewhere. Like, I don't want people to think that we're just like, oh, this was just a political thing. But, we want it to be real. We want it to be more than just they want to show the public that they're still following up on things, But I think that people like you and I, like, we kind of have to kind of be open to all different things instead of, I just don't want to be let down, basically, is what it turns into.
Exactly.
Yeah. But hey, Spirit Seeker Squad, good to see you.
Hi, good to see you.
So our last little update is also a civil case that is happening, that's new this week. So the family of Kaylee Goncalves, you guys know that she was part of the Idaho murders, Bryankohberger case. She was upstairs with her girlfriend, Maddie. They were found in the bedroom together, whereas Xana and her boyfriend, Ethan, were found in the level below them in Xana's bedroom, in the hallway-ish near Xana's bedroom together. So the family, the Goncalves, Steve and Christy, have come out and stated that they want to sue. So the brief is, Kaylee Goncalves' family plans to sue WSU after her murder by Bryankohberger, a former WSU PhD student. So this is new this week. And WSU expressed condolences, but did not comment on the details of the lawsuit. The family of Kaylee Goncalves, one of the 4 Idaho students killed by Bryankohberger, plans to sue Washington State University. The backstory is Kohberger, 30, pleaded guilty to murdering Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, and Kaylee Goncalves in an off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho, November 13th, 2022. He is now serving 4 consecutive life sentences. Months after Kohberger's guilty plea, the family of Kaylee Goncalves is now seeking damages from WSU, where the killer was a PhD student. So in addition to him getting his PhD, he was also a TA, so a teaching assistant there. So that's the other thing that's very key to this whole lawsuit. Kohberger was a grad student studying criminology and criminal justice. Court documents revealed Kohberger developed a creepy and sexist reputation at the university before he murdered 4 University of Idaho students. What they're saying is the Goncalves family issued the following statement regarding the lawsuit. We filed this lawsuit to seek accountability and transparency from Washington State University. Our goal is to understand what went wrong, to ensure that no other family endures the same tragedy, and to honor the memory of those that were lost. We trust the legal process to uncover the truth, and we will not be making further public comments while this case is pending. It's unclear if the families of other victims in this case plan to join the civil suit. WSU would not comment on the detail of the lawsuit, but shared a statement from President Elizabeth R. Cantwell. My heart goes out to the families, friends, and entire community grieving this tragic loss of life. We share in the sorrow, and we recognize the profound pain and shock that this act of violence has caused. On behalf of WSU, I extend our deepest condolences and stand with all who are mourning. WSU is located in Pullman, Washington, about 10 minutes from the University of Idaho. Kohberger lived in an apartment in Pullman during the time of the murders. And none of this article describes how he was a TA and how the teaching assistant, or one of them, came out basically saying, like, yeah, we think that this guy, if he becomes a professor, like, this is going to lead to stalking and probably an essay. So that's also important information that we need to kind of keep in mind, like in regards to this lawsuit. I've already seen people talking crap about it. And it's like, if you look at it from the grand scheme of things, we've kind of discussed it here too. Like, if he was held accountable and, fired from his teaching assistant job and kicked out of school for all the complaints that were coming in about him, could it have changed the trajectory of his plans and this whole murder? We will never know.
I mean, I personally think yes. I think that he still would have killed, but it just wouldn't have been in Moscow. It would have been in Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? Like, he still would have done it, but it just wouldn't have been them.
Right. And yeah, and that's going to be the whole argument too. Like, because people are like, how is WSU going to be at fault for this? And it's like, how are they not, in a way?
I agree.
Like, honestly, if we are just talking about, like, if you and me were at a job and we were, say, for example, just saying racist statements, like, I would expect to get fired.
Well, yeah. Naturally, HR would probably have an issue with discriminatory language.
But it doesn't seem WSU had a problem with sexism and misogynistic things that he was stating, and that people came forward and they're like, WTF, like, this makes me feel uncomfortable, or why he's saying things that's just like, and especially when you think about the injuries on the 3 women in this case versus Ethan. Like, we talked before about Ethan's injuries not being as severe, and we've kind of left the door open, like, interesting. But when you think about this whole lawsuit that's taking place, like, they're basically saying he was misogynistic, he was sexist, and you look at the crime and you're like, wow, the injuries for the women, like, clearly he hated women.
Yeah, that was my first reaction. I think when you showed me that diagram over Messenger, I was like, wow, look at the difference between just the way, like with Ethan, it's like not in any way the same, level of ferocity. You know what I mean? It's it's something else. You know what I mean? And like you say, the computer searches, the porn he was watching, the pictures that he was looking at of women, they all fit what he was into, you know what I mean? And can't believe someone last week was saying that was the motive, you know what I mean? Like as if none of these things are true, as if none of this was released.
I know. And
Crazy.
hold on, let me switch up a screen, play a little video too on this. But yeah, so it says Steve Goncalves and Christy Goncalves intend to file a tort claim seeking damages from WSU. Hold on. And those who are pro-burgers who are upset by this, I don't understand that either, because if this opens a civil case, like, you guys are going to get more information that you're all seeking. You know what I mean? Possibly. So it says the claim is based on the allegation that WSU ignored repeated warnings about Kohberger's behavior while he was a grad student there before he murdered Kaylee and 3 others in November 2022. The family stated goal to understand what went wrong to ensure that no other family endures the same tragedy. So let's just see what this little segment has to say. And that's pretty much all I have to say tonight. I think that they absolutely have a legitimate claim. Yeah, I don't understand pro-burgers either. Listen, this guy pled guilty. He could have gone to trial. He chose not to. He's literally saying, yes, I did this. And there's still, I don't know. I try to understand them. I really do.
The 4 University of Idaho students murdered by Bryankohberger in 2022 plans to sue Washington State University. Kohberger was working on a PhD in criminology at WSU at the time of the murders. The Gonzalez family saying in a statement they are looking for accountability from the university. The family going on to say they want to understand what went wrong and to ensure no other family endures the same tragedy. We learned earlier this year that WSU students and faculty had expressed concerns about his misogynistic behavior. Court documents show one professor even told a colleague once the university gives Kohberger a PhD, he'll become a professor who is, quote, harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing his students, end quote. WSU President Elizabeth Cantwell said in a statement the university.
And we already read her statement, but it says why this matters. If this claim succeeds or even forces comprehensive disclosures, it could push the universities to reevaluate how they handle warning signs and student misconduct and threats to safety. Not only student misconduct, but misconduct of their teaching assistants. You know what I mean? Like, that is an extension of your professors, of your university. For the Goncalves family, this is a method of attempting accountability, transparency, and potentially compensation for loss. For WSU, it's a potential reputation risk in a moment of institutional scrutiny, both in terms of policy and potential legal liability. And it just goes back to that colleague who came forward and said, if this guy gets his PhD here, like, and he becomes a professor, like, there's going to be, problems in the future, including SA and stalking. How is that ignored? Like, how is he still left in the position and allowed to go to school on campus there? I think, okay, there you are, Jay.
Yeah, it seems like they just really dropped the ball on this. Like, if they're having those discussions that, he's going to do this, a logical person would say, how about we don't let him become professor? How about we, say these concerns to the dean and to someone who can actually do something about it, and like there's no point in saying these things and then not like coming forward and doing something about it. You know what I mean? Like what world do we live in where things just happen without action?
And get this, the person who came forward and said, like, this is going to turn into a stalking or potential SA situation was a woman.
Exactly.
So it's like, oh, so you didn't listen to the warnings because it came from a woman, and the complaints were from women, and the complaints were about sexism and misogynistic, like, whatever he was saying to these women, that they were like, this is wrong. I'm going to complain about him, and nothing was done. And then he kills 3 women, brutally, like so much hate behind those injuries and the up close personal like crime in itself. I stand by the Goncalves. A lot of people judge them. A lot of people are like, oh, they say they lost money and how dare they? And I don't give 2 craps about like their money situation. Like they wanted to go to trial. They didn't get to go to trial. If this is what brings them some sort of closure or peace or keeps their fight kind of going, then I stand behind it. I don't understand. There's so many channels that drag this family, and it's like, I don't ever want to be in their shoes, so I won't drag them. There's things that make me raise my eyebrow. Yes, there has been times where I've like looked at their posts or that something and I've been like, that's interesting, or I wouldn't do that. But then there's things that they say and do that I'm like, good for them, and if they want to hold WSU accountable on any sense of level, like I think they absolutely should go for it. And I think that this is justified, and I think that universities need to take these complaints more seriously. Like if it's a sexist comment, if it's a racist comment, like this could have easily turned into a hate crime. It is a hate crime, in my opinion, against women, so it's like, why do we crack down on certain hate crimes and not others?
Oh, I agree. I think if he was making racist remarks, it never would have gotten this far. And I think it's kind of sad that, you protect one group of people, but like it seems like another group of people aren't protected. You know what I mean? I think that they were women on the campus were really left out to dry. You know what I mean? To just repeat myself. He wouldn't have still been there if he was going around saying racist things. You know what I mean? They'd have gotten rid of him immediately. But for whatever reason, the university authorities there didn't take misogyny and women hate as serious as racial hate. You know what I mean? And that is something that they should be held accountable for.
Yeah. So good for them, because, think about 50% of the families in that case wanted a trial. 50% were okay with the plea deal. Who am I to judge the Goncalves because they want to take this to civil court and kind of maybe seek more justice in a different way? It's like, I don't know what it's like to be them, so I'm not going to judge them. But
exactly. But thanks so much for having me up.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. There was a lot to go through, so I'm really happy that you joined me. And again, if I can ever get over on your stream again, I will definitely hop up and discuss the cases with you over on your channel too. So you guys check out Jay. Join me tomorrow night and chat or on panel, Jay. I know you say like, oh, I don't want to join. I always want to invite you. I send the invite to Sleuthy Goosey and Criminality and other people too. I'm like, I know you guys are probably busy. If you want to join me, let me know. So either way, I'm happy to have you in chat too, moderating. So thanks you.
So much, Amber. You're always a great host and you always make me feel very welcome. And thank you, Amber and Alex and everyone else who does so much for my channel. You know what I mean? I've just started doing lives again after a long break, so every little helps, and I appreciate you all and everyone in this community, all the chatters. Everyone's so nice and so supportive. I've never seen anything on YouTube that's comparable to it. Everyone in every other community seems to hate each other and sue each other, so it's nice to have somewhere that's nice and peaceful, and we can actually enjoy what we like and what brings us together here in a really respectful and dignified way. So thank you so much. And I might come up tomorrow maybe and as a special treat, you know what I mean? Who knows? But thank you so much again.
Of course.
And good evening to you all, and I hope you all have a nice night.
All right, bye. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, guys. I appreciate everybody in chat who hung out, the moderators, the members, people who joined the membership, those who sent super chat. Thank you guys so much. Again, tomorrow night, we're just going to be like a laid back hangout. We're going to go through some defamation discussions and hidden true crime, Lauren Matthias updates. So join me tomorrow night for that stream. And then Sunday is always our kind of Watts live stream. So I'm editing the NK FBI interview, the audio. I'm retouching it. So hopefully it'll sound good, and we can go through that breakdown further on Sunday night. So that'll be at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow night, I think I'm going to go earlier at 7 o'clock. I'll keep you guys updated. So join me then. And again, thanks everybody, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.